Welcome to Talk Heathen. Despite never receiving good reasons to believe in the existence of God, once again, we are here, folks, and we are ready to take your calls. So if you think you've got proof for ghosts or, I don't know, consciousness in rocks or whatever, give us a call because the show is starting right now. I am freaking excited. Today is Sunday, March 26th, 2023, and I am your host, Secular Rarity, and I am joined by the absolutely incredible Christy Powell.
Hey, glad to be here.
It is so freaking cool, and not only is it so cool to meet you, man, we're here live at the Free Thought Library, the ACA studio, folks. It is awesome. I don't know if we can get a shot of the audience, but we have a bunch of sinners and
there we
heathens.
go.
Look at those people. I am just freaking thrilled to be here. It is my first time here, man, and you actually haven't been back here for a little bit either, so you're...
Yeah, no, I love being in the studio specifically, and then it's been more than a month since we put a hold on secular sexuality, so this is like the longest I've gone without doing an ACA show in almost 5 years, so I'm pent up right now.
We're both kind of newbies at it. We're both going to make mistakes.
A little rusty, sure.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen. But, we can make it a super, super great show. And we can do that if some of you people call in. So Talk Heathen is a live call-in show, and we have open lines right now. So folks, get your calls in at 512-991-9242 or from your computer at tiny.cc/callth. Again, I have never heard a good reason to believe in the existence of a God. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, there are a lot of people who believe in God or gods, and all of them believe in that for reasons that are like valid to them.
Sure.
But as soon as you start to scratch on that and pull some of those threads, things do tend to fall apart. And so it's about trying to figure out how to explain that to people in a way that doesn't just raise all of their defenses.
Right. And look, Christy and I, we are here. We are ready. We are interested to hear your thoughts, folks. So if you're out there watching us right now and you want to get some calls in because you just have some awesome proofs, well, trust us, we are here to listen. But before we get to that, we want to give you the results for last week's Talk Heathen to Me. So every week, we've been doing this and we're checking out your comments. So last week, we asked you to complete the sentence, I made a deal with the devil and all I got was blank. So we got our 3 top answers. Number 3 from Rationally Ruby. I made a deal with the devil and all I got was Katie's terrible American accent. Now,
it's cold.
That's cold. It hurts. It hurts me, honestly. Number 2, we've got Cheap Shot 28. I made a deal with the devil, and all I got was a prayer that he doesn't alter it any further.
See what you did there. That's clever.
Good. That's good. I like that. And finally, our number 1 answer for this week is from Brain Dead. I made a deal with the devil, and all I got was the awareness that I was naked and this lousy T-shirt. So I'm sorry about the T-shirt being so lousy. Hopefully it was a nice temperature for the
It's
naked.
good work, though. I definitely appreciate that we are bringing in these different voices because my jokes are getting a little stale and corny.
That's honest. I have a couple written down, but I think I've already used them all. So we're flying by the seat of our pants. But we've got another prompt for you folks, and we're really excited to hear what you got on this one. So for next week, the prompt is, what's the first thing you would do if you saw all the Christians get raptured? So get your best answers in below the video in the comment section, not in the live chat, in those comments. And next week, we will reveal the top 3 answers. But Christy, what do you think on that? What do you think? What would you do if you saw all the Christians get raptured?
Brunch.
Oh,
right? Like, think about how different the vibe would be at 12 o'clock on a Sunday at your favorite restaurant if everybody who pretended to believe in God just wasn't there anymore. It'd be fantastic.
I like that.
I mean, the servers are more relaxed.
Right.
You don't have to worry about any weird blue laws about ordering drinks. I mean, I feel like everything would come together. I'm
that.
kind of pulling for it, really.
It would make life a lot easier. Before we got in the studio, we were looking at that, and I thought, especially me being in Tennessee right now and all the garbage that's going on, I think we put on just the biggest damn drag show we can, right? I mean, they're all gone, and none of them are going to be passing any of these shit laws anymore, so...
Plus, there's going to be just a ton of discounted, like, prairie dresses and muumuus available.
It would be really, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of opportunities.
Well, folks, we are excited to hear what you have to say as well. If you think you've got something that is more clever than either myself or Christy, you're probably right. But B, make sure to get it in the comments so that we can read it out for next week. So we are going to grab some calls here in just a minute, but we do still have open lines, folks. So 512-991-9242. Get those in for us because Christy and I, we want to hear some proof. We want to hear some reasons to believe in God. Look, I'll give you a list, folks. I don't think souls are real, okay? I don't think heaven or hell is a place. I don't think there's a God. I feel really confident that aliens aren't visiting us. I don't know. Any one of those that you feel good about, just bring it to us. But
do it.
Talk Heathen is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. And once again, I am here live. This is so exciting for me. So I'm just thrilled to be here. And there are a bunch of ways that you can support Talk Heathen and the ACA. We've got merch, kind of like this. I don't know if you've seen that beautiful t-shirt, but all kinds of great swag, hoodies, mugs, and remember, there is always a limited edition t-shirt every month. So tiny.cc/merch ACA, and you can get all that great stuff. And don't forget, folks, if you're here right now on YouTube, you're watching us, go ahead and like the video. It takes you absolutely no time whatsoever, and it means the freaking world to us. It is super helpful for us getting out there in front of more people. And if you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Enable those notifications, send those comments, and tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, and again, call us. Why not, If you want, you can become a channel member. I know that if you do click the join button below this video, you get custom chat emotes. And one of those is me. I'm an emoji now. I'm thrilled for that. That was never something I thought I wanted to achieve, but now that I have, I'm happy.
Hashtag goals. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you.
So if you do that, you join. I think you can join for as little as 99 cents a month, and it goes a long way, and it really helps support the mission of Talk Heathen and the ACA. And finally, just send us a super chat with a question or comment. Say something funny or smart or... I don't know, what other, angry, I guess? Would we read angry super chats?
I'm totally here for it. Yeah,
okay.
I appreciate, like, as a mental health professional, people are always saying, don't read the comment section. And that's valid. That's probably smart. Sure. But you know what? I just love it. There is something about internet vitriol when it is just so demonstrably and laughably ridiculous that I can't get enough of. So,
well, you heard it, folks. You heard it.
If you want to put it as a super chat, however much you want to donate, however mean you want to be, bring it on. Blame me.
That's right.
I really apologize to our moderators for those comments, actually. But
sorry. They're not going to let us back. But, fair. That's okay. We're here now, and we got some time, so we might as well go ahead and grab a call. It looks like we have Michael, him from Michigan. You have some questions for us, it sounds like. Michael, you're here with Christy and SR. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, great, man. What do you got for us today? What are your questions? What are your thoughts?
I guess I just, I've heard I heard a lot of the videos from your guys' channel and the other Atheist Community of Austin channels. And, I think you've given us a lot of tools, and we got a pretty full toolbox. But I guess we don't hear a lot about how to implement them. Like, how do you take it to the streets in a way that, like, you see Christians do or people that are theists do, where they're putting up billboards and they're putting up things like that to try to convince people to come to their churches. Yeah. So I guess just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Christy, what do you think on that, man?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are atheist billboards. There are, I don't want to say atheist evangelists, but I mean, there are people like you and I who like make a point of trying to spread this news and information, and that's valid. And get involved if you want to get involved. Get involved with the atheist community of Austin if you like. Even as far away as Michigan, there are all kinds of volunteer opportunities with this organization and tons of other great, online-oriented, global reach type of groups. But honestly, sincerely, my best answer as just a human person is don't worry about trying to spread the atheistic worldview. Worry about trying to make the world a better place in a way that feels right or relevant to you. What are you good at? What are you passionate about? How can you give back to your community locally as well as just your human community as a person? And, doing so guided by skepticism, by secular humanism, by these values and these ideals that, we work here to promote. Is that all fair to say?
Yeah, I think a lot of that's really good. And I think, one thing that we often overlook is especially when, we are in the minority, as is the case a lot of places, right? I'm in Tennessee, church every freaking corner for sure. I think one of the most valuable things we can do is just that old awesome quote of, be the change you want to see in the world, right? Make sure that you are constantly, being that good representative, because I think so often that is one of the things that really can change people from a really hardcore bigoted stance is when they meet somebody for the first time and they go, oh my gosh, I've never met a bisexual person before. You're actually normal. You're actually cool.
Like a person.
Like a human. Yeah. How weird is that, right? And it's like sometimes just being able to, be just you and just, hey, I see you got some groceries. Let me help you take them to your car. Or, hey, you got a flat tire or you need an extra $1. Just sometimes little things like that can really go a long way. But also, Michael, you always can set up a group too, right? There's always the possibility that you say, let's start a little Facebook group. Maybe just have a couple people gather at the back of a coffee shop or something, If I remember correctly, that's how Recovering from Religion started. Or was it the Secular Therapy Project? It was something small where there was just like 3 people getting together at a coffee shop for a couple of weeks. And next thing you know, it's this massive, awesome organization.
Yeah, no, I know that's a big part of the ACA's backstory. And yeah, it really is just about meeting like-minded people and coming together over a mission. So Michael, I don't know how any of that lands for you, but I really would encourage you to be at your local animal center or food bank or, working to help unionize or racial injustice. It doesn't necessarily need to be atheism to be atheism, to be valuable in that sense. How does that land for you?
Yeah, no, I know that all sounds good. And I, do try to support those things that I care about. It's just, I do feel like, we're dealing with a lot of indoctrination and kind of cult mentality when you talk to these people, or you say something negative about Christianity, I think even just the simple fact that they worship Jesus, a man, has a lot to do with the toxic masculinity in this country. So it's like but when you say anything about that to a Christian, they think you're taking it as a personal attack against them because it's their identity, that's what they believe. So I just don't know how to get around that part of it.
That definitely can be tough, Michael. And, kind of like Christy was saying earlier on, that navigating that space where you can have that disagreement and not get everybody, their defenses up so quickly, right? And especially so hard, too, because sometimes we get our defenses up really quickly, but they're not, firm. And so when we see that the other person is actually engaging with us honestly, we kind of bring those back down a little. I think one really, really big thing is always to let the other person know that you care about them, right? And that you're not in this moment to try to it's not a gotcha moment. It's not, oh, I want to make you look stupid,
Right.
There is a phenomenal guy who's been doing stuff like this in the skeptical and atheist kind of space for whatever. He just came out with a book not super long ago. David McCraney. So I think it's called like how to change minds or something, and it's just this beautiful psychological travel through, kind of how people change their perspectives in general and what's a better way maybe to communicate, and that's always really important, is to know what your goal is when going into these conversations. If your goal really is to just, hitch slap somebody down, then okay, yeah, I mean, do that. It's not, not necessarily my style, but go for it. But if your goal really is to have good conversation where you can push back and learn from each other and maybe change their mind to a little bit more skeptical view, then yeah, you kind of got to take a little bit of a different approach with that. But what do you think about any of that helpful, Michael? Hopefully something.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's just, it's like I think these things are, it's like I think, leaving religion is a good thing, but then people almost act like you're taking a good thing away from them, like you're taking away their heaven, which is, not what I want, not what I'm trying to do. But I think just like even, sorry, the simple fact of like teaching a child that the Bible is the truth and that like all these things are real, and then they go to school and hear something different, it immediately makes them doubt school. And they don't pay as much attention. And then just leads to a downward spiral of, well, I'm not going to listen to my teacher, and then they fail the test, and then they get angry because they failed the test. So
no, I hear you.
A lot of these things.
I spent a lot of time in a Christian school, and we would like go on field trips to, Natural Bridge Caverns, a large cave system in the area. And the tour guides would be telling us about how over the course of millions of years, these different formations would come together, and at various times this was covered by water. And our teachers are like, putting their hands over our ears and giving us a lecture about how none of this is true. It does isolate people in a lot of ways. So I definitely recognize the problem, and without having spent a lot of time in the Midwest, I guess I have to say I always thought of Michigan as a safer space than Texas or Tennessee, but recent events make me feel a little unsure about that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's just something I think we're seeing across the whole country, which is really a bummer, which I get why you're in this kind of space of feeling a bit more marginalized and stuff. I think there are a lot of people for sure that we try to ally with and stand in support with that feel like that. But yeah, give us some of your thoughts, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think I covered it. It's just you touched on it a little bit, but I basically live in a rural area where there's not a lot of I found the secular humanism organization, and I looked into that a little bit just to see if there's a group, and like the closest group that's affiliated is 2 hours away from me, and then in my small area is like there's essentially nothing. I'm going to try a group of humanists that meet currently at our local library, but I don't know how that's. Doesn't seem like they're very active. Their Facebook group is not very big. So just, but I drive down the highway and I see a bunch of, billboards about, abortion is a killing and stuff like that. There's all these kind of Christian messages and churches everywhere. And it's just a hard system to fight in a small town.
Well, and let me just validate that stress, right? Like that experience of constantly having your worldview challenged, of constantly being given information that doesn't really line up with reality. I mean, you can drive by a billboard and think, okay, that's bullshit. And then you drive by another one, you think, okay, that's frustrating. And then you just see them again and again and again. And I guess I just want to say to you, Michael, and to anybody listening, it's okay if that bothers you, right? Like, I'm not telling everybody that we should ruminate on it and we should let our anger control us, but I think it's really easy to just sort of dismiss that out of hand as, well, that's just the way the world is. And that is sort of an invisible stressor that you are carrying with you into countless interactions. And it's going to have a little bit of an effect, and we don't need to deny that or diminish that effect. So without meaning to tell you about yourself, Michael, I guess I'm hearing a little bit of maybe loneliness or just a need for validation and community. And if that's what you're looking for rather than like outright activism, often, of course, the two do go hand in hand together, but they don't have to. You know, if you're looking for people who understand how you feel and where you're coming from, there are a lot of different directions to go. And I hope that you wouldn't limit yourself to, I need to be part of a atheist organization. If you can, if you want to be, please do. It's great. I've been doing it for years. But I don't want you to think that that's the only way to get your needs met here.
That's a good point, Christy.
No, I know. I don't think it comes from a place of loneliness. I think it comes from a place of just care. I mean, I even think that, like, the ideals of Christianity of telling your kid that they're a sinner and they need to be sorry for who they are and that they're, you know, bad inherently, and they need to ask somebody for forgiveness for things that they can't control is just a negative way to have a mindset. And there's people teaching their kids with hellfire and brimstone, and if you know, they don't believe everything that they tell them, that they're going to hell. So they just it starts a cycle where you set them up with a negative mindset, and they, you know, think they're less than because they're told they're less than. They're less than, you know, a being that there's no proof it even exists.
Yeah.
So you're
I hear that.
you're pitting them to automatically think they're less than, and that they're sinners and that they're inherently bad and there's nothing they can do about it. Their only hope is to believe every word of this book and pray that that Jesus decides to have good favor on you and bring you into heaven. So
yeah, we've got.
I think it sets up a negative mindset.
We definitely, as non-believers, atheists, agnostics, you know, skeptics, secular humanists, we definitely have reasons to be stressed out and angry, and that sucks, right? I mean, that just sucks that's always out there. And just kind of like Christy was saying a second ago, sometimes one of the most helpful things, for me at least, has just been being able to be in a space where I know I won't have to deal with that because the other people around me are also in that space, right, of being non-religious, atheist, whatever label, right, free thinker, whatever. And that alone can be really therapeutic. Just being able to sit around with some buddies and, you know, joke about the emissions like donkeys verse in the Bible, you know, or the breasts like fawn. Like, why would you say that about some tits? That doesn't make sense to me. I've never associated the two, but we get together, we can laugh about it for a few minutes and give us a little bit of a break. That is just really, really helpful. And again, that's one of the greatest things about, you know, being in this community that, you know, for the time that I have. I've just gotten to know a bunch of people and have friends that can hit me up every so often and just be like, hey, SR, what you been up to, man? Everything good? And it's like, no, actually, no, this week sucked.
Yeah.
This week was shit.
Some
man.
do, yeah.
So, but give us some final thoughts on that, Michael. Let us hear what you think, and we'll move on and maybe get some proof of God. I don't know.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and like I said, I don't think I have plenty of friends, of course. It's just, you know, you see people have no issue putting a Bible verse about the positive aspects of God, but nobody will put like a Bible verse like from Exodus of saying, you know, God was about to kill Moses until somebody cut their foreskin off and rubbed it on his feet and God changed his mind. But that's directly from the Bible. But I feel like if you put that on as my Facebook status, I would get attacked, where anybody can just put a positive Bible verse up and not get attacked.
Yeah.
But really, we're doing the same exact thing.
Right.
Not wrong.
Michael, thank you so much for giving us a call today, man. We hope that you hang out with us some more in the future. And if you find some good ways to get involved in stuff, please give us a shout. Email us, you know, post it in the comments, or just give us a call again. So. Because we always love to hear updates on that, man. We can always find new ways to do better activism and better allyship, I think. So.
Yeah, and it's important because the world needs it, right? Like, we can acknowledge that piece of things, but I honestly believe it's good for me. Like, I do this out of altruism and a desire to make the world a better place, but I also do it because I need somewhere to put all of these feelings. You know, there's real value in being able to watch the news and go, oh wait, I'm doing my part. I'm, you know, offering whatever I can offer and can sleep a little bit better at night because of it.
That's right, folks. You heard it here first. Christy Powell, selfish bastard. I gotta say, I have never been more happy than being to help out here and do all these shows. So yeah, I guess I'm in that boat with you, man. That's all right. Well, We are going to be a little bit more selfish because we're going to tell you at least one of the super easy ways you can help support this wonderful channel and community. Just go and join on Patreon, guys. It's really easy. tiny.cc/PatreonTH, and that goes right to us, and it is super duper helpful, and it helps keep these lights on and keep all these wonderful people here. So yes, we're being selfish, but you know what? Fuck it, we deserve it. So go to Patreon and sign up already. And also, if you didn't know this, we've got a channel that houses all of the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. So just visit tiny.cc/AEN podcast, and you won't have to deal with all the hair that's going on today. Personally, I think we look great, but some people they're not big fans of the long hair, but that's fine. You can go check it all out in audio podcast form right there. And you can become a part of the Talk Heathen community in our fan-run Facebook page at tiny.cc/FBTHG. It is always a wonderful time with a bunch of cool people over there chatting and stuff. And if you want a good place to laugh and giggle about stuff, or just kind of, start some activism.
Or post your volunteer opportunities in rural Michigan if you happen to have any, just participate in the community part of the atheist community of Austin. It's a good time.
It's not a bad idea, guys. So if you've got those, that's a good place to put them. And then finally, before we grab another call, if you didn't know, Talk Heathen actually has a TikTok, guys, and we are going to be going live before the shows on Sunday. So go subscribe, join in the pre-show on the Talk Heathen TikTok. If you haven't already, I'm really not. The kids are into TikTok, and I'm not as good at it.
I'm not a TikToker. I'm not above it. I'm not going to do the millennial finger wagging. But I'll tell you what, I have had 3 separate people who are not involved in the atheist community or the online atheosphere or whatever come up to me and be like, I saw you on TikTok last week. And I had no idea. I know that, we've got all this ACA content that's been going out into the world, but actually seeing yourself out in the wild is a little different. Yeah.
Well, if you want to go see Christy Powell out in the TikTok wilds, you know where to go now, because Talk Heathen has a TikTok, folks. And just as a fun reminder, guys, we still have open lines, okay? So if you've got good proof of God, if you think, consciousness is all the universe, or souls exist, or I don't know, crystals, I don't care. We'll talk about it all. So 512-991-9242. And I think we've got somebody that had an alien experience. This sounds pretty cool.
I'm curious about this. You want to talk to Justin?
Let's hit up Justin from Colorado. Him. Hey, Justin, you're on with SR and Christy. Tell us about this experience.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say I believe in aliens, but I wouldn't not believe in aliens. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I saw a UFO. I was just, sitting on the deck. Well, I was actually, adjusting the viewfinder for a telescope. Mm-hmm. And then I looked through the main reticle, the main, view, and the moon was pretty big. And I noticed something right away. It was like a flying saucer that was like a 1940s style. And just a run-of-the-mill classic metallic flying saucer. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of seemed to be drifting up and to the left until it just got out of view. And then I lost it. But it was illuminated very well because the moon was right in the background.
Yeah, but what do you imagine you were looking at?
Yeah.
I saw what looked like a disc. It just looked like a disc with just kind of getting wider towards the middle, and then a little dome on the top and a little thingamajigger on the bottom, and it just basically looked like your run-of-the-mill flying object.
Mm. Yeah. Do you think it's possible that maybe over the decades and stuff, maybe not even consciously, but you've just kind of seen that image a bunch of places, and so maybe there was this weird fuzzy little object, maybe a little smudge on the lens or something that you kind of just pre-fitted into that mold? Do you think that that's a possibility?
No, because if it was a smudge on the lens, it would have went away. Oh no, it would have stayed there and it went away.
Sure.
So yeah, and then it was very clear. It was actually in focus. So I don't know how that was possible, but it was. And the moon was in focus too. So, yeah, it was kind of weird. I don't know how far away it was, but it was big enough to be about like maybe 10 or 15 lengths of the full view. So it was quite big.
Okay.
Yeah, so I hear that you've ruled out a smudge, and I get that, but on the one hand, you're talking about a unidentified flying object, and I asked you, what do you think that you saw? And then you've described like, well, I saw this thing that looked like a saucer, and you kind of vaguely mentioned the idea of aliens up at the top. And, you're calling this show. So, I think the implication here is, was it or was it not an alien spaceship, even if we haven't actually asked that question? And if that's where we're going or if that's what you're thinking, I have to kind of ask why. Yeah. Like, I can't rule out that it was an alien spaceship, but there just seem to be so many thousands of things that I couldn't even possibly conceive of that are still remarkably more likely than something we have no verifiable evidence of ever happening ever. Is that fair?
Oh, yes, absolutely fair. I just want to add that I don't know if it's aliens, and for all I know, it could be like a U.S. spaceship or something. I don't know. It could be anything, but I know what it looked like.
Sure.
So it was very clear.
I wonder about something because, well, two things actually. So, one, are you familiar? I'm sure you probably are, Justin. I'm sure you've probably heard about the big name folk, the Elon Musk and the Jeff Bezos and the Richard Branson doing the space rocket things. Like we got all these other problems on Earth. These guys are putting all their money into spaceships and whatnot. But did you know that Virgin Galactic, the Richard Branson company, had actually petitioned the U.S. government, like all the way back in like 2006, to like start doing test flights for various, flying vehicles that they were creating. And so with this knowledge on the table, where would you say aliens comes up? Because I like what Christy just said there, where it's like, there's so many thousands of different potentials out there that are still more plausible, I think, than it being like some travelers from another galaxy or something.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that. I don't know if it's aliens. I don't know if it was the U.S. government, and I don't know if it was another government, and I just really don't know who piloted it.
Or sincerely, if it was a balloon that was released from a grocery store or a child's birthday party or any number of things. Like, it may not seem like, oh, this looks like that. Obviously, if you knew what you were looking at, you wouldn't be calling us. You would know what you were looking at. But there are so many opportunities for the actual reality to become obfuscated by the time it hits the lens of the telescope and then hits your eye and then hits your optical nerve and then is interpreted by your brain and then is coded into memory and then is turned into a narrative which you can then construct into a phone call. There are so many opportunities for that memory, that experience to get sort of just messed around with. I guess what I really mean to say is don't believe everything you think, right? Like, you can't just rule out something as mundane as a Mylar balloon because the way that you remember it is that it probably didn't very much look like that.
Okay, yeah. If it was a flat, like, balloon that was horizontal, I would agree with you. And I told people immediately, hey, I just saw a UFO. And they're like, okay. And they didn't really care. So I was with my family on that deck, and I was just preparing the telescope. So, yeah, I totally get it, and I can see how my memory's been muddled since then. But
yeah, and that's something that's just regular for all of us, Justin. Honestly, like the other day, I was chatting with my girlfriend, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it was purple," and I was like, "No, it wasn't. It was blue." And we come to find out, hey, look, it was purple, But it's just like purple and blue aren't that far off from each other, right? So it's like, okay, the brain just kind of puts in the pieces every so often. And I think that's what's good about being skeptical, right? Is it doesn't mean that we never accept something. It means that we don't accept something until we have good reason to. And because currently, despite all the fun Area 51, stuff, we don't have any good reason to accept aliens are visiting us, and
I understand that. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. No, please, because I think you're on that. I think you're on that path. So
Yeah. No, I don't expect this personal experience to convince anyone else. I just started calling because I was advised by the chat.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would just say, without wanting to try and discredit your experience, that not only would I not let it expect it to convince somebody else, I would maybe encourage you to not let it convince you.
Yeah.
Because we all have experiences that we can't necessarily explain clearly, and it's okay to have questions, but to go from, well, this thing happened, I don't understand this thing, therefore aliens, therefore really anything outside of what we routinely observe and know and understand to be likely and true, just doesn't make good sense. Your personal experience not only doesn't convince other people, I would say you should be suspect about a singular personal experience that you had yourself.
Okay. Oh, one thing to add to that is that I don't know why it would be flying over the skies of Colorado and why it would just be drifting along. So
me either.
If it were like a secret spy or some kind of an alien, then why would it be doing that?
I don't know.
Great question.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten to the point of saying, why would aliens be coming to Earth anyway? I mean, if they have that technology, they probably have better telescopes than us. And this shit going on, you think they're coming over here to hang out? Like, I don't think so. But, Justin, thank you so much. That was a fun one, honestly, and we appreciate it, man. And if you get any more information on it or anything, feel free to call us back and let us know. We always love updates. So
and we do want to believe. Please.
Well, let's see from the audience. Audience, what did y'all think? Do you think that was a UFO experience? Do you think there were actually aliens that Justin saw? What do you guys think on that? There, are we convinced?
Show of hands, shrug. No,
I'm not feeling the convincing, folks. I am not feeling that we were
compelling.
convinced.
Sure,
and that's okay. That's honestly okay.
Fair enough.
But before we grab any more calls or hit some announcements, we have a couple of super chats. We'll say some nice things. I don't think these are angry yet, but we may get one before this show is over. So we've got $9.99 from Greg Markowski. He says, SR and Christy, you're both great hosts. Your mistakes will be minimal. I appreciate that, Greg.
Is that a backhanded compliment? Does that count as angry? I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I like it.
Yeah. Greg gets spicy sometimes, But we've also got one from Experiments in Prebiotic Chemistry, $10. Experiments in neuroscience have pretty much disproved the existence of a soul. In terms of religious belief, the soul is the thing which is most amenable to scientific investigation. Debunked. I gotta say, I agree with that. I really do. I think we have enough knowledge now of how the brain works that we really can rule it out. We would have seen it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can rule out the soul as as like a physical item or whatever else. I think it's valuable, though, to think of the soul the same way we think of the mind.
Yeah.
You mentioned the brain, but our mind is not just our brain.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a construct that we use to describe consciousness and our experience of thought. And, I think that there are worthwhile conversations about having soul or about, the soul of an item or whatever else, so long as we recognize it's a construct, not an item.
My favorite kind of soul is the James Brown type. So that's just me.
I got soul. I'm not even a soldier.
Well, we have, I think, one more super chat from Secular Sakai for $1.99. Yo, glad to see the show going strong. So thank you all so much for that. And again, if you wanna yell at us in those super chats, I think we might be obligated to read them. So but before we grab another call, gotta remind you guys to check out the newest episode of the flagship show of the ACA, The Nonprofits, which will air live at 3 p.m. Central Time today, and you can go check that out at tiny.cc/YTNP. I love the nonprofits, and we always have just some awesome hosts on. So definitely go check that out, you guys. It's right after this show, so it's pretty easy. The next is that the ACA wants you to know what is going on in our community, and to make that easy for you, we have an updated website. So all you got to do is go to www.atheist-community.org, and you can learn about the organization itself, its policies, and how you can get involved. And I got to be honest, guys, it was something like that led me to be here. So if you want to, if you're interested in that, there's always room to help, man. Mm-hmm. And finally, we want to hear from you. We want to know your thoughts, what we did good, what we did bad, how to be more effective, maybe cut your hair, SR. Like, these are all comments we'll accept. So just shoot us an email at tv@atheist-community.org and let us know your thoughts, folks. So it always is important for us. And with that, we're going to go out to Washington. We've got Evan, he, they pronouns, and it sounds like you are in favor of science having answers for consciousness, Evan.
I'm excited. Let's talk about
let's
this.
talk about this. What is up? Evan, are you with us? That's all right. We'll put him in the queue, and we'll chat about consciousness.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I was going to say, how does that idea strike you? Does science have answers for consciousness? I don't even know necessarily about the way that's all framed, but clearly we can't point to anything on an MRI and say, yes, that's the consciousness center. However, we are understanding how consciousness works in so much more detail. We're developing a more sophisticated understanding of it. It does seem like the sort of synesthesia argument of this is a bunch of different neural pathways that are sort of blending together to form consciousness. That seems to be viable. We don't have answers, but I think that the idea that science couldn't possibly find those answers may not be accurate. I don't know. What do you think there?
Yeah, I'm never the biggest fan of like those, overgeneralizations, just the everything, this and that, right? Like, so I guess there's a possibility that science will never get an answer to it. I guess we can't rule that out, but I feel like we've made a lot of progress, right?
Yeah, no question. I mean, honestly, I get a little uncomfortable when I start reading some of those aspects of neuroscience because, like, when I tell people not to believe everything you think, I really mean that. There are really terrifying, fascinating, but scary ideas where we will, perform a procedure or we'll see somebody with like a leisure on a particular part of their brain, and we can ask them a question and have them write down their answer or give their answer verbally, and literally the hand won't know what the mouth is speaking, and vice versa. Yeah. And that terrifies me because we all like to believe that, even if we don't have a soul, we like to think that there's like a conscience or like one quiet, still little voice inside of us that's the real us. Right. And science has proven that to be bullshit. Yeah. We are a collection of abstract thoughts just bouncing off of each other, and whichever ones happen to be loudest tend to be the ones we think of as us. But that's very inconsistent. And
I've heard some stuff too about how something with like, we're mostly not human, right? There's all these bacteria and viruses. Yeah. And there's something about the chemical interactions of them in our gut that may play a part too. Like, this stuff is fascinating to me. So it looks like we've got Evan back. Evan, you are on with Christy and SR.
Hey,
how's it going?
It's going pretty decent. So just a quick I'm left Mormonism about 10 years ago, actually almost to the day.
Congrats, happy anniversary.
But anyways, and I'm no scientist or whatever.
Me either.
But I saw the question, which was if people believe whether or not science can support consciousness. And now I am going to just take the easy route and say consciousness and the soul are basically, for most people, considered the same thing. I mean, we can debate whether or not they are.
Yeah, that's kind of where I like to shake it out.
Right. So then it just becomes a difference of what that soul is, you know? And when I left Mormonism, I was horrifically deprived of education. That's a different story.
Yeah, relatable.
Right. And so, like, I didn't even have a high school level education. It was bad. And so I went to college, took some mediary classes or whatever, and got myself caught up. But what I've come to understand is that, like, I've see a couple connections, and they could be wrong, right? But we have, our whole bodies has this sense of proprioception. We can tell the boundary of our body. And then when I look at biology and I hear people who really know what they're talking about, the way they describe the cell, each individual cell has that sense of proprioception. And when two cells connect, all that information becomes not just shared, it's chemically electrical communication, and they in essence become one entity, those two cells. And then I look at equations like the process of Vi, where it talks about waves when they meet become one wave, like a wave on the ocean or whatever, you know. And that's all an electrical chemical reaction is. It creates an electrical magnetic wave, you know. And so in my mind, I just look at this and say, okay, so we are literally a collection of cells, literally harmonizing their ways in one clump sum.
And coordinating to SR's point, coordinating with all kinds of different viruses and bacteria and all of these other creatures that we don't think of as us that exist inside of us and that we're reliant on and communicating with.
Yeah. The bugs in your eyebrows, that one really tripped me out the first time I heard about it. So there's nothing you can do about it. Shaving or washing won't help. Just
How many people in the audience just touched their faces real quickly?
They're
I was holding back from doing it.
Yeah. Right. And I like you brought that up because, like, despite even just looking at the concept I briefly brought up, we are intangibly or we are inseparably connected in a very tangible way to nature around us. We couldn't survive without these bacteria. You know, many of our bodily functions couldn't even complete their process or start them without. And they communicate with one another too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, anytime I see like Ant-Man or some movie about like shrinking or whatever else, I always do kind of wonder about that component of the plot hole. And, you know, how do you drink water when you are smaller than a water molecule and all these kinds of things? But, you know, to pull it all back together, yeah, we are aware of some of the ways that these things operate and newly aware, right? Like, we didn't have any concept of the way our nervous system was communicating with itself and with these other creatures, with, you know, nature, as you said, until rather recently. So I don't know that that means that a year from now or 50 or 500 that we will be able to use science to fully explain consciousness, you know, trademark. But it doesn't seem to me that it is beyond the reach of science.
Yeah. And I think, you know, with some of the stuff that we do have, right, we get somebody in a scan and we say, hey, here's something, and it makes you happy. And they go, yeah, this makes me happy. And we look at the brain scan and we look at like hundreds of other people and we can see correlation between them. Now, hey, look, I'm with you. Correlation, causation, different things. Fine. But as we further that path, right, as we continue to walk down that line of progress, for me, it just, you know, I'm not saying we definitely are going to have an answer, but it seems the most reasonable answer to me. It seems the most reasonable thing that the more we look into this, the more we will figure it out. just like we have with everything else. I was reading just the other day, apparently, there are these two awesome high school girls who, like, both like 16, 17, I think, may have just found another proof for the Pythagorean theorem. Something that for 2,000 years wasn't a thing, okay? So they literally just published their paper, and mathematicians are reviewing it right now. And so,
right.
Yeah, why couldn't we find more answers for consciousness?
And I think a part of what moved me to this topic is it's like what you're talking about, or I feel like we're hinting at or saying is, look, this doesn't answer the question of consciousness, but it's a great start. It points, if not answers, to a lot of questions. And when I talk to my family, friends, or even people I don't know, usually in a meaningful way, the thing that comes up is, well, religion, even if we don't know, it does provide an answer, and that answer provides meaning, and that really strikes home to me, because I used to really believe I was a child of God. Like, I was not of this earth. I was placed here, Yeah,
in the world, but not of it.
And live forever. Mm-hmm. I was going to become a God. I was going to know all things, and that really filled me with meaning. This world has many beautiful things, and I know that, but there are dark places, and I was in one of them, and when I lost religion, that meaning was gone, and it was scary. Yeah. It was a great weight, and I see all of, I want to say my brothers and sisters, society, that's the struggle, and I just am filled with so much meaning, so much purpose at being able to understand that I am as intimately connected with nature around me as I used to believe I was connected to a God I never saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is profound. It's powerful. And hearing not just you guys, but people like Ron Raw and Matt and Hitchens, some of the best voices on this earth, despite all their meaningful, it's clever, true positions, it's the meaning. It's the filling them with meaning that caught my attention, that made their true statements worth giving an ear to.
And I think that is...
And I love that you guys do that.
Thank you. And I think that's a really, really great point, Evan, honestly. And seriously, congrats. Like, I'm so happy that you have been able to walk through this journey and get to a place where you are so much happier and you find that connection and meaning. Because I agree with that point. I do think that is important. And sometimes we're just really big on, breaking down the kalam, and we don't provide some of that connection to the real world around us, and that compassion that we felt we had, even if it was misplaced, even if it wasn't based on something true, we still felt some of that. And sometimes just losing that can feel like such a detriment,
Yeah, especially in the YouTube space, so much of organized atheism can be about like poning theists and having the like hang up, mic drop kind of moment. And, there's catharsis in that. Sure. Like, I'm not going to hold it against anybody. I've certainly said some less than generous and polite.
I've told atheists to go fuck themselves once or twice.
Valid. But yeah, the reason that you and I do this, SR, is like not just to feel superior by like proving that, well, your argument for God is not logically sound. It's because life is for living, and so much of it has been wasted by some of these ideas. And so I guess I'm just really glad to hear from you, Evan, that you are finding a new purpose and a new meaning, and something that is a little bit more satisfying, more fulfilling, and that will help make the world a better place than these, ancient poetry.
Yeah. Well, Evan, thank you so much for calling us and chatting with us on this. I think that was really, really great conversation. And please feel free to jump back in the future and call us back, give us an update again. We always freaking love that. But also, all the great places you can hang out too. There's the fan-run Discord. There's the fan-run Facebook pages. So, and again, we opened it up if you guys wanted to send us some mean super chats. So we might get one or two of those here in the future. But before we move on to anything else, folks, we always read out the top 5 patrons. Every single week, we talk about these wonderful people because they help make this show possible. So patreon.com/Patreon-TH, and you might have your name read out. We've got number 1, Dingleberry Jackson. Number 2, Ayame. Number 3, oops, all singularity.
Still love that.
That's awesome, right?
Still love that.
Okay. Number 4, Devor Valjean. Number 5, Kalevi Helveti. And then an honorable mention to number 6, Lee Stark. So thank you guys so much. Remember, tiny.cc/Patreon-TH.
After a couple of years of this, I've had that opportunity of meeting people like online where, they're going by a screen name and then you actually get to shake their hand and get their real name. Like you and I kind of had that experience a couple hours ago. I hope that at some point in my life, I really do get to unmask and shake the hand of Dingleberry Jackson.
Yes.
Because I've been hearing that name for years.
I completely
And I'm just
agree.
so eager to know your story, friend.
I completely agree.
Thank you for your continued support.
Yes. And thank you for that name, honestly. We don't know if it's a family name or not, but we do love it. And definitely come hang out with us, Dingleberry. Where are you? So it looks like we have a question from the audience, but before we do, I need to remind you all, at the end of every month, this awesome live production goes on, okay? So if you happen to be in the Austin area on April 30th of this year, we will be broadcasting live from the Free Thought Library, so come and hang out with us for Talk Heathen, hosted by Objectively Dan, and a special freaking guest, Blind Limey. Blind Limey actually showed up for those cool auditions that happened, and he did great. So we are super excited to be having him on the show. The Atheist Experience is going to be hosted by Jim Barrows and this cool guy, Christy. And doors open at noon, folks, so we hope to see you there. I can tell you it's already been super, super fun, and I got a lot more to do today. So, but let's check in with these awesome group of sinners and heathens out here in the live audience. What do we got for us today? I think our buddy Jamie from Texas. What is up, man?
Well, yeah, I'm a filthy, dirty heathen. And in seriousness, I actually do have a bit of a point about religion and discipline. Yeah. I was personally not really in a religious sort of experience, but I was in a relationship, and having someone to be answerable to, even though the relationship was less than ideal, kept me disciplined. I may not have been the happiest I was ever in my life, but I was certainly the healthiest. And a lot of people turn to religion or have religion be part of their way of keeping their discipline, staying away from drugs or alcohol, or just keeping themselves on the straight and narrow in terms of being a good person. And I'm wondering, what alternatives can we offer? Is it safe to take people out of those circumstances when it's the only thing keeping them from self-destruction or self-sabotage? Because I've had serious problems with self-control. I think you probably tell which one of my top 3 favorite deadly sins is, but yeah.
I think
Any
it's
thoughts
lust.
on that?
I think it's lust. What do you
Well, I said top 3.
What do you think about that, Christy? I know you've got some thoughts.
Well, so as a mental health technician, I guess I will say that I don't want to play word games, but I do want to push back a little bit against that idea of I was healthiest when I was in this really authoritarian system. Health is more than nutrition. That's not to dismiss it. That's not to say that these things aren't important. But anytime we start to say that health is only this or only that, we end up start making little sacrifices and really cutting corners. And if you are absolutely miserable, I'm going to make the argument that you are not particularly healthy in that moment. So just to say that, yeah, when we are taking away somebody's religion, we are potentially disrupting their lives in that way, and things are going to compensate, but it's not a bad thing. Now, that phrase, of course, you and I are not going into anybody's homes and like stealing their religion from them. But it is fair that people who have traumatic experiences with religion are going to need to heal from that, are going to need to recreate meaning the way we talked about earlier. They're going to need to find new things to compensate. And all I can really say about that is it can be a very long journey. I love to recommend Leaving the Fold by Marlene Winnell. I, of course, want to shout out organizations like the Secular Therapy Project and the Reclamation Collective as incredible ways to start that journey. But yeah, it's hard for me to really say, well, you know, your life is miserable, but at least you were, you know, free of drugs and alcohol.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a hard place, I think, a lot of times because, I mean, I don't have that goal of stealing somebody's hope, right? Or of stealing somebody's, you know, ability to be disciplined or whatever. I just think we can do it better. I think we can do it in a way where we have less harm to ourselves and others, find more of that meaning in life that our last caller was talking about. I just think we have some of those things already. We really do. And if we step away from that thing that is making us miserable, well, okay, maybe, you know, maybe we have one or two more beers this week, okay? You know what? And fuck it, because I'm going to take that and that, you know, potential detriment to health over the detriment of the mental and emotional abuse that occurs, right? Not to mention the physical abuse. I mean, absolutely, I think we have better tools, we have better options than this, and let's go for it. I mean, I know that it can be a struggle, like you said. It was for pretty much all of us, I think, right? And that being said, I think I'm at my healthiest I've ever been.
Yeah. No, I definitely hear that. Yeah. Religion may offer some people a form of discipline that can be incredibly supportive, but I think we all know how that can be a little bit of a sham.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to get into too much detail, but if you start looking at statistics around some of our, quote, vices and, you know, things like pornography use or, alcohol-related driving accidents or things like that, we don't see them immediately disappear when we start studying a more religious area.
Right.
And in fact, we very often see the opposite. So,
you know, what's
something to think about.
Yeah, we like to call that in the skeptic communities some evidence.
Yeah.
So, you know, religious folk, if you disagree with that evidence, you know, we got them open lines. So 512-991.
Always with them open
9242.
lines.
So, hey, and we actually got potentially, I don't know if it's angry, but we got a spicy super chat. So I am excited to be reading this.
Excellent.
We asked
Let's spice
for
it
it.
up.
You brought it. Thank you so much. But before we do that, I have to say, you know, I have found myself saying, gosh, I really just love the ACA shows. And I just wish that there was a way that I could get it like all the time. Like Mondays at 1 in the morning or on a Tuesday at 6 p.m., right? Well, funny enough, folks, we've actually got you covered on that. We have figured this out because there is now a brand new 24-hour AXP TV live stream. That's right, 24/7, 365 365, right?
0.25-ish.
0.25?
Right?
Okay. Yeah. Every day, 24/7, you can tune in at any time, and you can experience a constant stream of shows, clips, and specials from the over 26 seasons of the Atheist Experience, you guys. So there is a lot of content I know you have not seen, okay? And you can go check in and find some awesome people you've never seen before, some great discussions, you know, some of your favorites. You can catch it all because, again, 24/7. So go check it out, tiny.cc/AXPTV, and you can join in on that fun. Now, we have got to get to this spicy super chat. I probably will say this name a little bit incorrectly, but I don't feel super bad because it's kind of calling me out, so that's okay. Lasiba 1924 for $4.99 said, "You offhandedly said we should fix Earth problems before doing space exploration, and that's ignorant, irresponsible to say. Never expected this from an ACA host." So I hope I got the emotion you were going for.
Gravitas of it all.
Right, and
Yeah.
I would also say I flat out disagree with you. I have done a lot of research into this, and I do know some of the struggles that we already know about when it comes to colonizing and terraforming other planets. The radiation from the sun alone is a big problem. Some people may argue that 3 centimeters of water will stop that radiation. They are correct, but where do we get
Where
it?
are you going to get that? Yeah.
So if you are still out there, though, our beloved super chatter, please, we still got time. Call us in and give us your thoughts on it. Or if somebody else just heard me say that and thought that was the most ignorant damn thing to ever happen on a show,
Let's
that's
keep
also
doing it.
fine. Yeah, that's fine with me.
I just love the never expected this from an ACA host thing. I'm not used to people holding me to a high standard in my life, if I'm being completely honest. Most people have just kind of like, we know what we're getting.
Right. For the majority of the things I've ever said and done, you know, people are just like, yeah, that seems to fit. Yeah, you're kind of that guy, you know. You would just start dancing in the grocery store or something, which I think is actually part of my VeggieTales experience growing up, you know. I do every so often smile at cucumbers and stuff. So, but we've got another call
Up
here.
and down the produce aisle.
That's right. There are some people out there that have no idea what we're talking about, and I wish I was one of those people. But anyway, we've got Brad from New Jersey. He, him pronouns. You've got something on your mind. I think that came up in a past show or something. But why don't you tell us a little bit about it, Brad?
Oh, wow. First time really calling in. So sorry if I'm sound a little nervous about this.
No, you'll do great.
Oh, thank you. I was listening to a show on March 5th, and one of the callers, am I allowed to use the names of the people who called in, or?
Don't worry about it. Just go with what the conversation was, and we'll go from there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a conversation on March 5th, and the caller was calling in to the show to discuss why he felt that well-being was not a good format to make morality. And he particularly said that society is static and should not change, and this is because the Bible went with that. And already I had, listening in, I was very, like, okay, this doesn't really make sense. The hosts are pointing out that society is always changing, and there's always chaos, and life is never, it's not about remaining in one place, which is a bad thing. And then towards the end of the call, they asked him, what would you do if you went back 200 years ago and slavery in the United States? You saw that, what would you say that the slaves should do? And one of the hosts said that, well, they have to rebel because it's the right thing to do. It's slavery. And the call said, no, well, they shouldn't do that because it would only add to the chaos. And, he was again still using the Bible as his moral guideline to say this. And when they pushed on him that well, if you don't think slavery's right, which you clearly said that slavery isn't good, then how are they supposed to fight for their freedom? Like, and the guy's like, well, they shouldn't have enslaved the people in the first place. And I'm like, this is the most morally bankrupt call in a person I've heard in a long time, who's not like a politician. And I just have to wonder, like, one is that I wish the host went a little harder in that, because that is accepting evil. And second of all, like there's no moral background to that. You're essentially a blank slate who accepts evil based on authority figures. Like, the guy's not willing to fight. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. I'm following along with you, Brad, because I'm right there with you a lot of the times. I feel like this argument of you really can only be a good person coming from this deity, right? Coming from this ancient book and whatnot, these cultish practices and all that nonsense. I often find that it is some of the most just garbage reasons, right? Like, it fascinates me that somebody has to be offered either eternal, horrific punishment or the most amazing present they could ever receive forever, just to simply not rape other people, just to not murder other people, right? Just simply to not be an asshole. Like, funny enough, I wake up in the morning and just go, gosh, I just don't want to murder anybody today. And it doesn't take any more than that. And justifying it with this, oh, well, because, see, God, sent his son and then, brutally murdered him, and now we eat his crackers every so often. Like, that's the reason that you don't go outside and kick puppies? Like, that's what stops you? That's ridiculous to me. Like, I just don't have those thoughts. I just don't. And yeah, again, Brad, I'm with you. Like, I think a lot of times these religious notions of why be good and so forth is just shit. And at the end of the day, I think what we're all using is well-being in some form or fashion. I think most of the time we just apply it incorrectly, right? We use it in one scenario where we can see the benefit to us individually, right? But then when it comes to the person down the street, we go, oh, no, well, that doesn't benefit me personally. But see, again, you're still using that system. So my argument is just apply it equally across the fucking board, right?
Yeah, expand it a little bit, be thoughtful about it, recognize that well-being today doesn't necessarily mean well-being for everybody always in the future, which you're never going to be able to have like a perfect zoomed out, cosmic perspective. You're only human.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to be, is the best possible humans we can be. And I think that we could talk about like deontology versus utilitarianism and really get into it. But I think well-being is a very useful guide, if nothing else.
Yeah. What do you think on all that, Brad?
I think, that sounds really about right. And although, like, that type of argument with we should leave society to remain the same, it just seems so based on, like, I don't want to say conservative values, like in terms of like how we understand, politics, but there does seem to be like a tendency with those who want tradition to always stick with that. And I'm trying to figure out, like, how do you get to that point? Like, I guess you can be indoctrinated by it, but even then there's a certain point where you have to say, like, no, I still may believe in the religion, but this is clearly wrong. So I'm going to go with my,
I think one big problem with that, Brad, is really just a misattribution for where the benefit for this individual that they have experienced in some capacity, where that benefit came from. I think we often hear, especially like, and not trying to be ageist or anything, but this is definitely an argument that's made by more of the 60+ crowd, where things used to be so much better in 1930, and it was such a great time in the 50s.
Golden mentality thinking, yeah.
And one reason I think that's the case is because, like, oh, you were fucking 5. Like, you didn't know shit about World War II. Like, you didn't, and that's okay. That's okay that was the case because, like 20, 25 years ago, I didn't know stuff, and I thought just little bumbling Elliot running around happy-go-lucky and stuff. I'm like, man, the world is fucking awesome. And then, it was like, oh my gosh, look at all these wars and like, look at all this garbage that's happening.
Not just what you don't know, but also the stress that you carry.
Yeah.
Right? Like you are going to interpret the world as full of promise and opportunity and abundance when all of your meals are taken care of, when all of your stresses are dealt with. When you are 45 and dealing with all of that shit yourself, you're going to be a lot more willing to say, well, back then, everything was so easy.
Yeah. And again, the misattribution, I think, with religion is people experience certain benefits, right, in various ways, and they are attributing it to the belief. When in reality, it's not the belief. It's not the belief in souls that makes, you know, a lot of people have good experiences. It's when they're around other people, when they're around other human beings and they can have a conversation and connect with each other. And it's like, yeah, again, you know, just kind of like what our audience member, you know, was asking about. We've got better methods. We really do. And I think the goal should always be to look for even better methods, right? I mean, you said it right. We'll never be fucking perfect with it. Sure. It'll never be done. It is a task that, starting right now, we should all comfortably know we will all die without that perfect system. But that's awesome. That is the greatest opportunity we have. Because if we had it all fucking figured out, written down 2,000 years ago, what the hell are we doing? What, you know, like why isn't everything better? And it's probably because that 2,000-year-old stuff is just shit. And we've learned a lot of better things, and there's always more stuff to learn. So, yeah, again, I'd have to say society being static isn't great. I'm not a big fan of that, and I'd also say that well-being is kind of the way to go. So we appreciate you giving us a call on that, Brad, because I think that was a pretty good topic. I'm always down to talk about morals. I do. I love talking about morality. So.
Yeah, no. Fair to say. It's worthwhile to recognize that, yeah, we don't have some ancient book telling us how to be good people, and yet somehow we manage.
Right. That's so interesting. Again, yeah. I think it was Penn Jillette that said that, like, I murder and all the people I want to, which is exactly zero.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, yeah, like that thought for me really was. It seems so basic and mundane, and yet it really does have a lot of meaning, because it's like, no, I just don't want to treat people like shit. Like, and if you go with that goal, funny enough, like, you actually can accomplish it. No belief in a God necessary. So, but again, hey, if you disagree with us, you know how to get a hold of us at this point. I'd hate to say anybody's chicken, right? I'd hate to call anybody cowards or anything. So I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't do that. But, you know, we do have another call, so we might as well take it. We've got Tristan from Texas, he, him pronouns. It sounds like you're thinking about potentially introducing your son to some religious topics or something. You're on with Christy and SR. What you got for us?
Hi. So I was sort of just kind of thinking about, you know, my son's 3 now. And, like, obviously we live in a, you know, predominantly religious culture. So I kind of just was wondering what your guys' thoughts was on sort of, you know, how to like introduce that concept, because I'm imagining it's coming soon, you know, without like setting them up to be like, you know, sort of, I don't know, mean about it like I was when I was a kid, because I didn't really have any guidance on it, you know?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I mean, for myself, I would maybe start with talking about Santa Claus, and not just talking about like Coca-Cola American Santa Claus, but you say, you know, some people believe that this magical folk creature comes into your house on Christmas Eve, and in this part of the world, he dresses in this like red fuzzy suit. And in this part of the world, he actually rides a pack of dolphins rather than reindeer. And over in this part of the world, they believe that he has this helper that's covered in like coal soot and all of these things. And you just sort of by comparison say a lot of different people believe a lot of different things, and they are inherently inconsistent, and that's okay, because that's what these people believe and that's what those people believe. Here in our house, we don't believe in Santa Claus, but we have this wonderful tradition of, you know, whatever else. And so instead of saying like, well, this is why Christianity is wrong and that's why Buddhism is wrong, you just acknowledge that lots of people believe lots of things, and some of those things are silly and some of those things are not. And you know, dear child, will eventually be somebody who gets to decide what they believe and why.
Yeah, and I definitely just to add on a little bit to that, because I think that's fucking amazing, honestly. Kids are smart, really. Like I see a lot of times we talk about young children in such a way as if we weren't a young child at some point, right? Or that they're just completely idiots until they hit some magical age, and then suddenly everything makes sense, right? Like, kids figure stuff out, and if you're willing to be honest with them, and you're willing to be open and let them kind of, you know, go down this direction for a little bit and explore some stuff, and then, you know, okay, maybe they don't like that anymore, and then they go look over here, and you know, and you encourage them and say, yeah, get your hands on as much information as you possibly can. I think that oftentimes works out in a better way. I have found for myself, the more that I have learned about things, the more I have come to better conclusions, right? And for a young child, they're going to notice that stuff. They are going to see those differences and similarities. And as long as you don't shove it down their throat that they can't be this and you can't think that, or you have to do it this way, or read my book, as long as you don't go that route with it, I think it's probably going to work out, you know, in a pretty good light. Well, definitely. I mean, please don't take my advice. Christy has a lot more experience in this, so I'd just go back a few minutes and just listen to everything he just said. But shout back.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought up Santa Claus, because me and my wife sort of early on were like, you know, that's, I don't know, like, it's sort of a deception in a way. It kind of sets your kid up to be mistrusting. You know what I mean? So we don't do that. It's like a fun.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe I should have clarified at the beginning. This is on the assumption that you don't do Santa Claus in the sense that you actually believe in it, which is, I think, very much the right thing to do. I won't get on too big of a soapbox about this, but I would say you do not need to tell your children everything, right? There is such a thing as age appropriateness. You're allowed to have secrets. Of course, all of those things are true. But even if you don't tell them everything, don't lie to your kids. I just cannot stress that enough, whether it's about whether or not there is ice cream in the freezer, or whether or not there is a magical fairy that's taking their tooth. When you start the habit of lying to your kids, even in these sort of cute, traditional ways, you are starting down a road that really just does not need to be walked on. To the best of your ability, it's okay to say, I don't know, that's private, I'm not going to tell you, but I would urge anybody listening to just don't lie to your kids.
Yeah, seriously. And it's amazing that we have to say that, right?
Yeah, like, we don't think of kids as people.
Yeah, we really don't. Yeah. We just write them the hell off. I mean, it's fascinating. But yeah, give us a quick shout.
I'm a proponent of like talking to kids like they're people. You know what I mean? I don't really do that baby talk thing.
Yeah,
it kind of bothers me when people do that to my son, because I'm like, kids are smarter than we give them credit for. You know what I mean? And they know what's up. You know what I mean? They understand more than we think. And I tell him all the time, because he's in that phase where he's like, why about everything. And I definitely tell him, like, well, I don't really know, buddy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I really want to know that, but you know,
or even that's private, or we don't talk about that in this way. And you know, all of those answers are going to serve them well for life, even if they don't immediately satisfy.
Yeah, and I'll say it. You know, remembering back on my experiences growing up and the way that my father and mother would speak to me about stuff. It was a little unsatisfying, but also it was a hell of a lot more satisfying than "'cause I told you." Yeah. Right? Because I'm the parent, you know? Exactly. Well, I'm dad, that's why. It's like, well, that's a shitty answer. Like, you could, hey, that's private. Hey, I don't know that. That's a hell of a lot better. I may still not have the blank filled in, but at least I know that I am being treated as another person in this interaction, you know, and not just being dismissed out of hand. But I feel like Tristan, you are on a good path. And I think as long as you kind of go back and, hey, like I said, replay the video, listen to everything that Christy just said, just skip past those few minutes with me. But hey, call us back in the future too, by the way, and let us know if you learned something great, if you learned something that didn't work, throw it in the Facebook fan run groups or on the Discord and stuff. So, but
For sure.
thanks so much, Tristan. We appreciate it. And
Yeah, thanks.
yeah, we hope that you kind of navigate that space well. I know that can be challenging.
I mean, that's tough stuff. It's really hard to teach a kid, like, hey, there's this global conspiracy that, like, maybe as much as 4 billion or more people all sort of buy into on some level.
Yep.
And we don't, but, like, try not to be a dick about it, and you're 5, right? Like, I do get that challenge.
That's a struggle for me.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit older
exactly.
than 5, and there are definitely.
It's still hard sometimes to not be a dick about it.
Oh well, hopefully we won't be too big of a dick here in just a minute. But I think we actually have that wonderful super chatter from a minute ago.
It's amazing how this is happening in real time. I'm ready
really
for
happy
this.
for this, honestly. I think this is going to be a good conversation. So we've got Carolina from Texas even. She, her pronouns. You sent the chat about space exploration. How are you, Carolina?
Hey, doing great. I just wanted to say that I didn't mean it to come off as derisive, but as...
No, I did. I was
We
just playing
we
it.
were calling it spicy. We
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
don't mean
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
We're on the same team, but please.
Oh, okay. So I guess I just... The manned space program is something that's very close to my heart because I am an aerospace engineer. And when people say things like, well, we should fix our problems on Earth before we go into space, that undermines the mission of NASA and gets a lot of misinformation out there that tarnishes the reputation of the space program, makes people kind of just dismiss it and think less of it, which just leads to misinformation, to people not thinking that it's important, to them ignoring all the benefits of it, to them not wanting to pay more taxes for it to fund it.
You know what, Carolina? Just let me jump in real quick because I want to say that
Sure.
I think that's incredibly valid, and I think that is worth me taking that on and not being so flippant in the future. I very much value space exploration. I think there are lots of opportunities for us, and the idea that we would be defunding that, especially because of some, flippant thing that I said, and not even really trying to convey that message, right? But no, I think that's valid, honestly. Yeah, I do think that's something that I should take on and try to make sure in the future that I don't just kind of dismiss it in such a way. Because we have seen some NASA cuts, unfortunately, so...
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that we will never deal with all of our problems on this planet ever. So we would be waiting around forever before we started to look around. But without putting you too much on the spot, Carolina, I mean, can you give us your elevator pitch on why funding the space program is so important to humanity?
Ooh, I like that.
Sure. And first of all, I want to say just I really admire that, and I appreciate hearing that. So basically, first of all, NASA, the cost of it is for every tax dollar that you pay, half a penny goes to the space program. So it's basically not that much. It's also a huge industry and one of the few government industries that actually gives more revenue back to the government than what it takes. The space station has made advancements in all sorts of different human research experiments, things that help with osteoporosis and cardiovascular health. They're also doing experiments with like 3D organ printing, material science research. So everything that is done off the Earth eventually comes back to the Earth for the people that are here. So it's basically we're paying almost nothing for it, and we get so much more in return. And in addition to that, it also is an incredibly difficult industry that requires a lot of advanced degrees. which gets people, going to college, getting these crazy degrees, getting involved in really complicated fields and just being leaders in the different areas that we work with. When the space shuttle was retired, about 7,000 people lost their jobs, 7,000 highly intelligent, trained engineers. Mm-hmm. And it devastated the towns around Kennedy Space Center, Johnson Space Center, because it's more than just the engineers. They all have to live in those cities, which means that there's restaurants, clothes stores,
sure.
All sorts of people with small businesses that depend on that community of engineers living there.
And
So
even
you take
though
the space program, and it's just a cascade.
Yeah, and I think again some really really great points, Carolina. I mean, I was just going through my head and just thinking of a handful of different technologies that specifically came from NASA that we use on a daily basis. And even though there are challenges and so forth for terraforming Mars, right? I mean, you would probably have much better understanding on any of those problems than me. But even though those problems may exist, that shouldn't stop us as a society to actually try and figure that out.
We should see that as an exciting challenge.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. And honestly, I am glad that you sent that very mean super chat, by the way. Very, very, way over the line. But I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you called in because I think that is a message we should all be able to get behind and take on. It shouldn't be... It's not that hard to say, like, hey, we can explore space and fix shit on Earth, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, if we're going through the government's line item budget, there are definitely some places that I would start. So yeah, I'm comfortable with leaving the NASA budget in, and I'll just say I really appreciate, Carolina, that you have kind of walked us through that.
Yes.
I'm confident just knowing the makeup of our audience and the people in this community. There are a lot of folks who grew up as kids watching Carl Sagan or William Shatner or insert your personal relationship with space, but I think our audience had a lot of people who probably were holding back a little bit of a tear as you were speaking kind of beautifully about the work that's being done here. So I certainly appreciate all that.
Yeah. And I think...
And it's...
Go ahead, please.
It's that aspect of just that wow factor, that inspiration is something that, like, NASA goes through a lot of trouble to do outreach to kids, to underprivileged communities, to college campuses, trying to recruit people and get them to just see the beauty and the marvel in space exploration. And I think that the reason I said that it surprised me from an ACA host is that, the ACA upholds being a skeptic and being curious and learning more. And what better thing than something that's literally larger than the world itself?
Yeah. Again, I think it was a fantastic
it goes with what it means to be human.
Yeah, and I think you've made a phenomenal case for it, honestly. And again, I think it's something that, it's easy to kind of say that in a flippant state of just being like, oh yeah, we got, but it is.
I work in aerospace. I hear it all the time.
Yeah. And honestly, it's an easy thing, I think, that I can take on board without really having to radically change much. And it's something that I believe in and agree with. So yeah, I think,
and you're right that we also need to be cognizant of what's realistic and what's not.
Sure.
So you are right, and there's a reason that we got super hyped up about Mars, but we had to pull back and say, okay, we're going to do lunar gateway first.
Yeah,
we're going to do the moon colonization first.
And I will
Mars
say,
is still on the plate, but not right now.
I will also say, Carolina, I'm a big fan of more science for the younger humans in this world. I know that was something that was really vital to me growing up. And
I took a trip to NASA.
Oh my
did it at the
gosh.
Space Center in Houston when I was a kid. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I've been down to Huntsville a bunch, and I just even just little tiny science experiments, with like Hot Wheels and little cars. It's like it really can instill this sense of excitement and wonder and exploration. that again, I think you made a really good point. I want you to get ready with those spicy super chats in the future if you ever hear me backsliding. Okay, Carolina?
Sure. Love the show, by the way, so that just caught me off guard. So thank you for talking to me, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thanks so much. We're happy to have you call in. And I think that's a really good, that's kind of a good way to get to the kind of wrap up.
Nice place to leave it. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So many of these shows leave you just wanting to kind of like slam your head against the table. But we've talked to some really generous and interesting and beautiful people today.
I didn't, did you see proof of God? Did you get any proof of God? I didn't.
Yeah, no, I'm still not convinced that God exists. But you know what? We've got another show coming up next week.
That's right. That's right. So, if you're out there and you were just like, "Oh man, I got the best freaking argument ever," well, fine. You can give us a call in a couple of hours on Atheist Experience or hang out with us next week. So, but before we go, I gotta remind everybody. Gotta remind you, folks. We got an awesome question this week. Okay, really, really excited to hear what your answers are. So remember. What is the first thing that you would do if you saw that all the Christians got raptured? What would be the first thing you would do? You're seeing these Christians getting raptured. What do you do? So put those answers in the comments section, not in the live chat, in those comments, and check us out next week because your answer might be read. Also, I got to remind you that below the chat, we have a fundraiser, and 100% of those proceeds go directly to the ACA. YouTube does not take a cut, and that is super helpful. Remember, again, folks, it takes you nothing, and it means everything to us. So just like the damn video already. It looks like a little thumbs up. It's super cute. And right next to it is a little button that says subscribe. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that. You can become a member very easily. Just click that join button below the video. You can also support us on Patreon at tiny.cc/PatreonTH. And we have a channel that houses all of the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. That's tiny.cc/AEN podcast. Make sure to go check that out. You can also become a member of this awesome, awesome community and really take part in that. You just hop over to the Fan Run Facebook page, tiny.cc/FBTHG. And we also, normally, I would be in the ACD right after this, the Fan Run Discord server, but I'm here today. But there's always really cool stuff going on there. So make sure to check out tiny.cc/ACA Discord. And we got to remind you about the flagship show of the ACA, and that is the Nonprofits. I have been told it is the best thing on YouTube at 3 p.m. Central Time. So if you are skeptical of that, you can actually really easily
do
check
your
this out.
own research, guys.
tiny.cc/YTNP. It's super easy, okay? So you go there and then, I don't know, yell at us next week or something, I guess. But we could not do all of this amazing, amazing stuff without these wonderful people behind the scenes. Can we see that crew? Look at that freaking awesome group of people, just a whole room helping out. And I think we should take a look at that beautiful audience again before we go. Can we see that? Oh my gosh, look at them. I love it. It is honestly, it is just so cool, man, doing this stuff in person, especially getting to sit here next to you and stuff.
Yeah. No, it's so much fun to be a part of the community, right? Like, this is a online global media corporation, but it's a group of people who are just working to try and make the world a better place, and it's so nice getting to actually shake those hands and see those people in person. So thank you for being here with us. Thank y'all for being here, and of course everybody that made this show happen, and the crew, moderators online and everywhere else. Really thankful to have these opportunities.
That's right. It is that whole group of people behind the scenes that allows us to just sit here with our long hair, don't care attitude. So can we get some love rings? I get to do this from the studio. Can we get those love rings going? Maybe something. Maybe. Oh
there
my
we go.
gosh! Oh my gosh! It feels even more
It's more real.
It feels more circular in person. Is that weird? I thought the love
It's
factor
rounder
would go.
somehow.
It does.
Yeah.
But whether you believe or not, seriously, if you are an essential worker, we know that it has been a struggle for you, and we greatly appreciate you, and we want to be on the other side of this in a much better place, and we are just asking everybody to keep doing their parts. Sometimes it's really simple, easy things that you can do, folks. And it's great that it's not that hard to get access to a lot of those things, and they help a lot. So let's help out our essential workers and give them a little bit of a break, right? And like Christy was just saying, if you don't believe, this is your community. It's not just a show that comes on. Like, yeah, sure, the shows are awesome and they're so much fun and yelling in the live chats at Theists and whatever, but there's a whole bunch of people that really care and are really compassionate, and it's just really awesome to be around those people. So join in with us and hang out with us. And if you do believe, I mean, we don't hate you.
Just not convinced.
We want the truth, so watch Truth Wanted live, Friday at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTW and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/calltw.